Fantastic. So yes, let's get started. We're talking about inventory management. We're talking about best practices. And I really just want to give you some tools so that you can set up systems to avoid inventory management mistakes, especially since last year there was a lot of trouble. We're still experiencing a lot of delays, a lot of restrictions. And my thought on it is that in fourth quarter, we will have another grind upon us. So we should be getting ready, getting planned, getting prepared right now for Q4, especially with all of the delays that we have seen. We want to make sure that you guys are covered. All right, so if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. You can also type them in the Q&A. You can raise your hand if you would like to be unmuted and like to speak directly to me about your question. But I'm going to go ahead and show you some best practices. I'm going to show you how to utilize them inside of the software. You also could apply some of these techniques to a spreadsheet. Looks like a lot of our users are not using, or a lot of our attendees are not using spreadsheets right now. But if you are, there are some principles that you can apply to a spreadsheet. Not everything, a spreadsheet can't do everything for you. It doesn't get as granular as, say, a software could, but there are a lot of other things that you can add that maybe you're not doing now that will be helpful to you. All right, so let me go ahead and I'm gonna just introduce myself. We are talking about inventory management to win 2021. Every time I talk about inventory management, I like to talk about it from the slant of protecting yourself from stockouts, but also lining yourself up to help you to scale. That's really important. We talk about scaling a lot. We've talked about scaling in this industry very heavily for probably the past several years, and yet inventory management is just starting to be talked about. I think it's actually the missing link to scaling. So if you feel like you're having cash flow issues or you're having trouble scaling your business, it's time to start looking at, how often did you actually stock out? Is that maybe the problem? Were you stocking out? If you're not stocking out, how many times did you air freight a shipment that maybe is causing you some cash flow issues? So if you are trying to scale, you are stressed about cash flow issues, the first place that I would look is inventory management. So that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit, introduce you to myself. I'm going to share a couple of slides and talk a little bit about myself and why I am so passionate about this and why I really got into exploring inventory management when I was trying to scale my own business. So let me go ahead and do a quick screen share. All right, hopefully everyone can see my screen. And so yeah, we're talking about inventory planning to win 2021. And hopefully you are, we're well into 2021, but the intention is that, throughout the fourth quarter, you stay in stock and you are prepared, whereas maybe some of your competitors are not. Inventory planning, because it becomes extremely important in terms of, beating your competition. Because if your competition is not prepared for Q4 regarding their inventory, you could end up overtaking them. And we did see that in 2020 where competitors were overtaken. I actually saw it in, one of my own products overtaking some of our competitors in terms of sales. And we had much larger sales in Q1 than even expected because some of our competitors were not prepared to get them through Q4. And so by Q1, they were out of inventory, and that worked to our advantage. So it's something to keep in mind. Many reasons why inventory management is important, but that being one of them. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about myself. I've been selling on Amazon since 2014, and really that was my objective, was just sell on Amazon. And then I found that I was actually pretty good at helping people, and I was doing some things in the Amazon space that others weren't doing, namely in the copywriting space. So I actually have a copywriting and listing optimization agency that came about just because I started sharing some of the techniques that actually helped people to double, triple, sometimes even quadruple their sales or better. And so I started speaking on stages, and I was on AM/PM podcast for that, Seller Stories with Jungle Scouts, spoke on the SellerCon stage, which at that point was called Seller or Amazing Summit. And so, you know, that was kind of my foray into helping people. And I really have a huge passion to help people. I believe that the more people that are doing well, the more that they can do good in the world. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I really like to help people, make sure people succeed, as I've seen that more times than not. So that brought me to about 2018. I started looking at my profit margin, and I was having trouble scaling, having trouble with the cash flow, and really dove in and found that a lot of it was because of inventory mismanagement. So I decided I was going to get really good at inventory, and that inventory, those inventory issues, in terms of, the amount of time I was putting in, I realized that I needed to find a tool, and the tools out there were not doing it for me, right? So some of the problems that I was trying to solve were, losing sales because inventory gets stranded until after Christmas. That was something that happened in 2015. I sent in inventory, but I sent it in too late. Then Amazon lost it, and then they found it after Christmas, and I lost a bunch of money to the lost holiday sale. So that was one thing. Another thing was losing, just simply, stocking out, losing a month worth of sales, and then the amount of money it takes to re-rank, over ordering products and paying thousands in storage fees and loan interest, overestimating holiday orders. Let me know if any of this sounds familiar. And I'm going to quickly jump into the Q&A. I see that there are some questions that are being asked. Someone is interested in bundling. Okay, we definitely can touch on bundling. I'll probably leave that toward the end. Yolanda says, I have a product which comes in a box and has an explanatory slide in it. How can I make a bundle for that? So I can show you a little bit about, that's not exactly what this particular webinar is about, but I can show you a little bit about bundling. And then if you are currently using the software, Yolanda, I will share a link with you to get a demo where you basically can, ask questions live about how to demo the software, the SoStock software. So I can drop that in the chat towards the end for you. But thanks for asking that question. All right, so so we're going to talk about basically, I was trying to solve this problem, and I decided I needed to build a software, and I met this guy, Dan Fernandez. I actually met him at an event I was speaking at, and he was a last minute addition. He is the co-founder of Thomason.com, and I'd heard of Thomason. Thomason had worked with a lot of Amazon sellers back in 2015, beginning of 2016. And so, I knew he had a good product, and I knew he had a good software, and he kept saying he was bored and he needed a new software project. I was sitting here needing someone to help me to build a software because I had all these ideas. I really tried a lot of softwares. Let me know if this sounds familiar to you. Tried many different softwares for inventory management, and none of them seemed to work right. I couldn't understand some of them. Some of them were really expensive. Went to my masterminds, and I asked my mastermind friends, what are you using? And the answer kept coming back, we've tried everything, nothing works right. So we're back to spreadsheets. I saw that as an opportunity, right? If a spreadsheet can do it, why can a software not do it? What is going wrong that we can't get it together and build a software that works better than an Excel spreadsheet, right? So in that process, one of the things I did is looked at common inventory management mistakes, right? We put together a team, and I've talked to literally hundreds of sellers, right? I have my own business, but I've talked to hundreds of sellers about inventory management. I've looked at spreadsheets that, some of these top 7- and 8-figure sellers had built out for themselves, and we really baked that into our process. So really what I want to talk about is the common inventory mistakes, and then I want to talk about what are those systems that you can put in place to avoid those mistakes, right? What are the things that we're doing that are causing those mistakes to occur? Because we actually are doing things within our business, whether we realize it or not. Sometimes, it's something unpredictable, such as what has happened over the last year, but there are ways to kind of mitigate some of that as well. So what mistakes are we self-creating? What mistakes are we, by just overlooking things? What systems can we have in place to prevent some of these things from happening? All right, so the first mistake, there's basically 3 mistakes, right? There's, reasons for these mistakes, but there are three main mistakes. The first one would be under ordering, right? You just don't order enough, right? And sometimes it's because you have this huge spike and you didn't really predict that you were going to have a huge sales spike like that. But other times it's because your data is off, right? You were miscalculating your data, and that's simply by not looking at your data correctly. So I can talk to you about what exactly that would look like. An example would be, say you stocked out last year, right? It's easy to remember, that you stocked out, say 30 days ago, maybe even 60 days ago. But what if you're looking at last year and you're trying to predict what you should order for the holiday season and forgot, because you say you have, 40 SKUs, something like that. You forgot that you stocked out because you weren't keeping track of that. And Amazon, when you export the reports, they don't necessarily give you that amount of granularity. So you either need to have a software tool that helps you out, or you need to be tracking it like a hawk to make sure that you don't repeat those same mistakes. So say you stocked out and you lost out 1,200 units worth of inventory, right? 1,200 units worth of sales. What happens if you go and place the same order again? What will potentially happen is you will potentially, stock out and lose the same amount of sales, a similar amount of sales. So that's simply, the data not being utilized properly to avoid under ordering. Next one is over ordering. So this is a similar thing. It's, unevaluated data. You ordered too much. What was the reason that you ordered too much? Maybe it was that, you had some spur of the moment, media feature. We had that happen once where we were, we had a huge sales spike, for 2 days, couldn't figure out what it was, found out that one of our products was featured in the holiday gift buying segment of some Today Show, something like that. So we had this huge sales spike. Well, if you go and place your Christmas order, not accounting for the fact that you had this huge sales spike that's not going to occur again, you could get into trouble. And that's something that we need to keep in mind, especially this coming year, because we had Prime Day in October last year, and that's not going to happen again, right? It's supposed to happen, mid-year again, like it was all of the years before COVID occurred. So that would be an example of potentially over ordering, because you're just taking the total number of sales and you're saying, okay, well, I sold from October to December, to the end of December, I sold 10,000 units. Well, maybe you should have sold 7,000 units of that product, and that media feature spiked your sales by 3,000. Now you're over ordering, you're tying up your cash, you've got more inventory that is incurring storage fees. And even worse, if you've taken out a loan to order that inventory, you're then paying that interest. And if you don't sell it out, then you have that recurring monthly payment that you have to make to pay off that loan for that inventory that you're having trouble selling because you over ordered. I'm just going to jump over and check on just going to check on this quick question here. It's rather a long question. I think I'm going to leave this to the forecasting. When I jump into the forecasting, we will go ahead and address that question. But thank you very much, Jason, for asking it. We'll get to that. All right, so the last one is really cutting it too close. You've got over ordering and under ordering, and then you have cutting it too close. And these are the three basic mistakes that we make, right? There's various different reasons that we make the mistakes, but these are the basic mistakes that we make. So cutting it too close. This is simply not ordering on time. And there are several different reasons that this could happen, but some of the main reasons really are one, that you really don't have a structure in place to remind you to check on a regular basis, right? Check your inventory. Do you have a weekly appointment set to check your inventory? Sometimes we don't, because we go, oh, I just ordered, I have plenty of inventory. So you don't create that system and that habit. And then, you don't have this thing alarming you to say, okay, check your inventory. Your sales have been picking up more than normal. So you basically forget it. And then when you go to check your inventory, you download your reports, you do the analysis, and we usually leave it to the last minute, because it's so much work. It's so much work to download those reports, plug all the numbers in, and analyze that. You're basically starting from scratch on a regular basis when you're using spreadsheets and when you're using Amazon's downloadable reports. So we'll sometimes not have that scheduled. So that's one of the systems that you can put in place to say, okay, every 2 weeks or every week, whatever it is for you, I'm going to check on my inventory. Even as much as it's a pain to do that, I know that I need to do that, because if I don't, I might wait till it's too late and then be 2 weeks too late to order my inventory, and that's the cutting it too close portion of things. Another reason that we tend to cut things too close is cash flow, right? We know that we're going to have to pay for that inventory, so we want to wait until, say, our next payment comes in, or we want to make sure we really need it before we have to expend that additional expense, because the cash flow maybe is a bit tight. And that's where you actually can end up spending more money, because you waited a little bit too long, then your sales went a little bit better than you thought, then you had to airship, and all that money that you were saving then went into paying that expensive air shipment, or went into stocking out, and that just makes your cash flow issues worse. So sometimes finding a way to not put off the ordering will actually long term help you in terms of your profitability and your cash flow. All right. So those are the 3 basic reasons. Now I wanted to talk about, what are the solutions to that, right? What are the things that we can do to prevent that from becoming a problem? All right. Okay, so inventory management best practices, right? So we have, the first thing I want to talk about is adjusted velocity, right? I talked about the whole idea behind, really having the data be a little bit wrong or a little bit incorrect. So the thing is that, if you're looking at total sales, right, you're looking at from this period of time, I'm looking at the total sales. That tends to become a problem. So what you need to do instead is you need to be looking at what we call a daily adjusted velocity. So let me show you how that works. Okay, so I'm going to be jumping into the spreadsheet, the software. Again, if you have a spreadsheet, you can think of ways to be able to do this via the spreadsheet as well, but we have put it into a software. So the daily adjusted velocity, what that is doing is it's taking those daily sales, right? So let's say 60 days worth of sales, and it's looking at, did you stock out? It's looking at, how much you did in terms of your sales, and it's factoring out sales spikes and stock out. So if we go into our sales spikes, you can come in here and you can decide, what sales spikes are going to be removed from that calculation. So if you had, for example, Prime Day, and Prime Day was showing huge spikes, you could come in and you could remove that, right? You can come in and you can remove, stock out days, for example, right? So if you stocked out on a product, you can remove all of those stock out dates, and then it's going to adjust things for those stock outs so that it'll actually get a daily adjusted velocity. And when we talk about daily adjusted velocity, think, for example, if you're looking at 30 days, right? If you're looking at, say, 30 days worth of sales, and within those 30 days, maybe you stocked out for, let's say you stocked out for 10 of those days. You really need to be looking at the average of 20 days worth of sales, right? So that's important because, if you sold, say, 300, you sold 200 units in a month, right? If those 200 units, we could calculate them and we could say, okay, well, your daily average, you're going to sell 200 every single month. Well, what if you only had 20 days worth of stock? You'd actually have 10 units per day, and you should have sold 300. So we should be ordering 300 units worth of stock instead of 200 units worth of stock, because we're actually doing 10 units a day if we're in stock. So that's what we mean by daily adjusted velocity. All right. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a rule of thumb. So how to calculate daily adjusted velocity. So we're using averages. We're not using monthly totals. And then we're using, you have the ability to use last year's sales. So you can go into the SoStock software and you can look at last year's sales, but it's also going to factor out your sales spikes and your stock outs. It's going to create an average. So if you were stocked out for a week, it's going to take that week and it's going to look at the days around that and say, what was your average when you weren't stocked out? Let's fill that stock out period with that average, right? So that's last year's sales. So you take out stock outs, you take out sales spikes. You can also take out deep discounts, and then you can add growth trends on top of it. So what I mean by growth trends, essentially, let's say you've got your Christmas sales and you say, I want to have the same pattern, right? When I do Christmas sales, my sales double, and I want my sales to double from this period to this period. But I just started selling my product last year and I was selling 10 units a day. My product is doing really well this year, and I'm now selling 30 units a day of this particular product. So I want the sales patterns from last year. I want to see, the increase in sales for the holiday season, but I don't want to take the exact sales, right? If I did 20 sales a day last year, but I'm already doing 30 sales, I should be doing 60 sales. So you can take the sales pattern and then you can add your growth on top of that. So that's something to kind of keep in mind, is that that you're able to do that within the software, and that's something that you should be doing within your own calculation if you're using a spreadsheet. All right. Buffer stock. Okay, so if you only took one tip from this entire webinar, I would say that buffer stock would be it, especially based on what has been occurring. So buffer stock is also known as safety stock. I consider it like a false zero, right? It's like that little bit of gas in the tank when you get your empty light comes on and it says, empty, you need to go fill up your gas. You're not going to end up on the side of the road immediately as soon as that light comes on. That light comes on and you know that you have enough gas to get to the gas station and fill up your tank. That's what buffer stock is like, right? It's that little bit of extra inventory in case anything goes wrong. So let's say, just for an example, a boat, making its way through the Suez Canal gets stuck sideways, right? Something that just happened recently. Well, what's going to happen to your inventory? Well, hopefully you have a buffer stock. If you're cutting it too close, you're going to run out of stock, and you can't afford the extra, say, 2-3 weeks delay that occurs. Or Amazon takes forever to check your inventory in. You can't afford, that delay because you're shipping things and you're cutting it too close, right? This is going to solve that cutting it too close issue. Maybe there is a hurricane off the coast of China and you can't get your stuff out of China for an extra week. Buffer stock's going to be that thing. So I wanted to talk about how exactly to calculate your buffer stock, right? So in terms of calculating your buffer stock, what you want to do is I'm going to show you an example of buffer stock, right? We have buffer stock a couple of different ways. You should always look at it, we either can look at it in units. I'm sorry, right here. We can look at it in units, right? Total number of units. We say, okay, 300 units. I need 300 units of buffer stock. But what if you start selling a lot more? Then you need a lot more buffer stock to cover that same period of time. So I always like to look at buffer stock in number of days, right? So buffer stock in number of days could be, say, 30 days. I want 30 days of buffer stock. So instead of being told to ship so that your inventory arrives before it hits 0, it's going to arrive before it hits 30 days. And what that's going to do is, one, it's going to allow you to make your settings across your entire catalog. So if you want 30 days of buffer stock for every product, your best seller that 30 days might be, 4,000 units, 8,000 units, but 30 days worth of buffer for, say, a slower moving product might be 300 units. So you can actually set 30 days, apply it to all products using this drop-down button, and that way it's all going to fluctuate based on your velocity. So if you have a product you've just launched, maybe you need 500 units to cover your buffer stock, but as that product increases in sales on a daily basis, the buffer stock amount is going to increase as well. So it's going to be flexible, and it's going to use your velocity and make adjustments to what is actually needed based on that velocity. Let me know if you have any questions. Type any questions into the chat. I wanted to talk about the buffer stock guidelines. So this is important. The general rules, we say, well, what, I get the concept of buffer stock. What is the buffer stock that I actually need for my products? So the general rule of thumb is that if you've got a longer lead time or a longer transfer time, you need a higher buffer stock. You need to keep in mind that the more things that can go wrong, the more buffer stock you need, right? Could your product get stuck in customs? Are you having, more trouble getting your products, out of China? Are you having, difficulty getting the boat to leave the port? Is the boat getting stuck at the port? All of these things, it makes more sense now, because there are all of these problems occurring, for us to build out that additional buffer. So maybe if you were doing, 30 days worth of buffer, it might make sense to, at this time, switch that to 60. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're putting all 60 days worth of buffer stock into FBA. So it brings up the point of, you should probably consider having FBA buffer and a warehouse buffer, right? And that way, until things start getting back to normal, we can ensure that we have enough inventory to be prepared for all eventualities, right? The last thing I wanted to talk about for buffer stock is this concept of geo-ranking. Let me know if you have heard of geo-ranking. It's something that is being talked about more and more, but it's something that we have personally been talking about for, probably about 9 months, and how inventory has to do with geo-ranking. So geo-ranking is the concept of, essentially, it's the concept that based on where your inventory is, you may have a different ranking, right? Based on where your inventory is, and also based on how you sell. But we're talking about it from an inventory standpoint. So if you are running low on inventory, so Amazon spreads the inventory out across the country, or the continent, whatever it is, EU versus the US, but it's spreading that inventory out across the country to meet the 2-day prime and sometimes 1-day prime. And we have had users lose their 1-day prime badge if their inventory gets too low, which is why they are sure to set their buffer stock higher, because they have seen that happen, where they have a 1-day prime badge and maybe they're in the grocery category, and they lose that 1-day prime badge because they don't have enough inventory to be able to meet that 1-day prime. Amazon makes certain promises. They don't make a promise that your inventory, that your product is going to be good, right? The reviews help to do that, but they don't make any promises about your product. They make promises that if someone doesn't like your product, you can get, it's an easy refund or replacement process. And they also make a promise about the shipping, right? Prime shipping, they say, we're going to get it there in 2 days. Now, it doesn't always happen, but Amazon, they want to keep that commitment as much as possible. So they might, even if your product is better than a competitor's product, they might start pushing you down the ranking if they know that they can't get that 2-day prime shipping to that customer on time. So if you don't have enough inventory spread across the country, there is a chance that they're going to start pushing you down the ranking. Say, if you are, say in the Midwest, you don't have enough inventory, someone looking in that area, your listing might be lower because they know that they cannot fulfill it in the proper time. So they actually are trying to discourage people from buying your product simply because you don't have enough inventory. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's, if you see your sales start to slow down when you have less inventory, that might be why. Something to keep in mind. And that's one of the reasons that we advise to have a higher buffer stock, is because of that, right? So that you can keep your sales velocity up and you keep your geo ranking up. So make sure you have, we say 30 days. For wholesalers, you could maybe do 10 days, simply because the margins are a little bit different. The turnaround time is different. And also you're sharing a buy box with someone. So you have less of a likelihood to lose ranking if you're sharing that buy box, right? It's a little bit of a different game, but for private label, we usually say 30 days at Amazon is a good way to go. All right. MidMax Restocking. Okay, so MidMax Restocking, I wanted to talk about this. This is if you're one of those people that doesn't like to do inventory, you don't like inventory management, and it's just one of those necessary evils, but you never, you don't see a way to ever pass that task over to someone, and you may not want to pass the task fully over to someone, at least not right away. But this is a way to help to start, kind of consolidating some of those tasks, right? Min-max restocking is the concept of setting, your minimums, think buffer stock, right? Your minimum and then your maximum, and always ordering within those parameters. So I first developed this concept within SoStock because I saw it at work in a warehouse. There was a warehouse that was printing. They did print on demand, and they ordered these huge drums of paper and these huge vats of ink, and they had it on a weighted system. And they said, as soon as the ink gets down to this level, we're going to refill it all the way up to this level. And then we're going to use it down to this level, and then we're going to refill it up to this level. And that was how they did their ordering, was always on this weighted system of maximizing, the top weight and then the bottom weight. And that was just basically, it was like clockwork. So that's something that we decided that we wanted to put into the SoStock system, this min-max restocking. So min-max restocking inside of Amazon or inside of SoStock and inside of what your system could potentially be works like this. You would switch to an as needed, right? And this is for transferring and for ordering. So you switch to as needed, and then that activates min-max restocking. So you can set, 30 days as your minimum, 90 days as your maximum. And so it's going to have you stock up to 90 days, sell through to 30 days, and then stock back up to 90 days, right? We're also able to pull your IPI limits so that if your maximum has to be what Amazon is allowing, we're going to be pulling that on a daily basis and making sure that you're actually not wanting to, trying to send more inventory than Amazon, will let you send. So that's min-max restocking. And there are a couple of reasons why min-max restocking can be beneficial. And one of them is you're maximizing your inventory levels. You're reducing stock outs with the buffer stock. You're reducing your high storage fees by, having that maximum and not sending too much inventory. That also helps with sell-through, because if you're sending too much inventory, it takes longer for that inventory to, what we say is turnover or sell all the way out. So it help to increase your IPI limit to set those maximums, right? Those minimums and maximums. It helps to monitor that. So if you've had issues with IPI limits, it's a good idea to get an exterior warehouse and then set those minimums and maximums to optimize your turnover, minimize your excess inventory, minimize your stock outs. And then lastly, like I said, it's something where you could eventually turn some of these tasks over to a VA or to an assistant to be able to handle, because now you've got a system in place, right? Rather than saying, oh, well, I have to just look. I can't give it to anybody because I have to look and it's a gut feel thing and I just know. That is what we're trying to get rid of. We're trying to push some of these things out of, we're trying to systemize these things and put some of this gut feel, out of the process so that we can actually, focus on, the marketing side of things. Because you as a business owner should be focusing on marketing, sourcing, expansion, big picture stuff, and be able to pass some of these tasks on to somebody else. All right. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to do is talk about something called the inventory timeline. And I'm going to show you what an inventory timeline looks like. And then we'll talk about why an inventory timeline could be valuable. So this is our inventory timeline. And an inventory timeline is just basically a visual picture of on a daily basis, every single product that you have, right? From an inventory level. What is going to be happening with your inventory, right? So this inventory, this one is going to, be stocked out for a couple of days, right? And then it's going to come back in stock, and then it's going to, we're going to sell through, and we're going to see there's another shipment that's coming in. And so you can basically see everything that's happening with this product just by looking at the timeline, right? A lot of times you come in and you say, I don't understand why the system is telling me to reorder. So we go, okay, let's look at the timeline. Oh, see, this is why we're telling you to reorder, because you have a sale that you forgot that you put in there. And that's one of the things you can do is you can put your sales in. So I can put, let's say Prime Day. I want to say Prime Day, and I'm going to sell 1,000 units on Prime Day. And so you can put your Prime Day in there. Any sales, right? This works with any sales, email campaigns, anything. And then you can actually scroll down and you can see that this boosts by 1,000 units. So that's going to adjust everything. Everything is going to be adjusted. My orders are going to be adjusted based on these various different things that we're putting in, right? Maybe I want to put in, a 7-day deal, right? I can say 7-day deal, and then I'm going to increase, I know percentage isn't necessarily the thing that we want to use for 7-day deal, but just give you an example, right? Increase by 30%. So you can do a 30% increase. So you can do a percentage increase or a number of units increase. But basically what we want to do is we want to put our marketing plans into our inventory plans, right? So I would say that would be the second thing. If you only did 2 things, establish a buffer stock, and then, or even better, establish a min-max system, right? Which is buffer stock plus max stock. And then the other thing would be to plan your marketing into your inventory. And we call that inventory-minded marketing. So inventory-minded marketing is just this concept of planning out all of your marketing events and how they're going to impact your inventory. So you can come in and plug those things in, right? If you plan on increasing your PPC by say 15%, it's going to factor that into the equation. And I see I've got a couple of questions coming up. I'm going to go ahead and jump into some of these questions. Okay, so the first question I have is from Jason. Jason says, I've been thinking about our logistic management for Amazon with inventory max limitations going forward. Do you recommend your manufacturer as a warehouse? So some people do use the manufacturer as a warehouse. So one of the things that people will do is they'll have, say, a local warehouse and then their manufacturer as a warehouse. And some of these manufacturers you pay the initial fee up front, and then they'll allow you to store inventory, sometimes for up to 3 months, right? And that's what he said here, ordering 3 months worth of product and storing the extra, at the factory. So they'll let you store it, and they usually will let you store it for free for, say up to 3 months or so, and only pay for what you're sending. So let's say you produce 3 months worth of inventory and then you're shipping out, monthly, you'll only pay, the additional, final payment for that inventory that you shipped. And so that actually helps to free up cash flow. So that's one of the smart ways to be able to control your cash flow while ensuring that you don't run out of stock, right? So some people will say, I have a local warehouse and I have my factory as a warehouse. And that can also help to mitigate some of those storage fees, right? And then let's see, the other part of this question is, I have found that using 3PL not only increases our lead time significantly, but it's a lot of cost associated with receiving and shipping. Yes, so there's a lot of cost associated to the receiving process. I would not recommend sending all of your inventory to Amazon at once. One of the things that we have done is we'll send a little bit to our factory, which is also a fulfillment center. And then we send the rest to Amazon. And that's because Amazon can sometimes take a long time to actually check that inventory in. So we want that little bit of extra inventory, say, a couple weeks worth of inventory that we can turn on FBM and we can fulfill it through our third-party fulfillment so that our sales and our restock limit don't crash, because your restock limit it has to do with how much you do in terms of sales, right? So if you're suffering restock limits and your sales, you stock out, your restock limit is going to start to go down. So your FBM sales will help to keep that restock limit in a good range. Your FBM sales actually contribute to that restock limit, staying higher. So I would definitely recommend that is Don't send everything to Amazon. Have maybe a little bit reserved as a backup to be able to turn on fulfillment. That's one of the ways that we got into trouble in my business several years ago, was we sent everything to Amazon. They lost it until after Christmas, right? So that would be my advice, is send as much as possible, direct to Amazon, and then maybe have just a little bit of backup for, the off chance that Amazon, not really the off chance, the, more common than not chance that Amazon takes 3 weeks to check your inventory in. So hopefully that helps. All right. Another question was, for seasonal products, do you suggest we use MidMax or buffer stocking? So MidMax, so buffer stock is just a portion of MidMax, right? If you have seasonal products, I would say you should be using the seasonal portion of the SoStocked tool. If you're using SoStocked, right, use the seasonal portion during that seasonal time. When it's your off season, then you can switch, say, to the past, say, 30 days or whatnot, right? If it's like your normal sales season, and then switch to seasonal. And then I would say using the MidMax restocking, as long as you're using that seasonal feature, it's going to look at the future and see what you need for the future. So it might look at, say a summer product. It might look at, okay, so for the next two months, you need 10,000 units in buffer stock. And then after that, you need 2,000 units in buffer stock. So the buffer stock is going to be adjusted based on that. And the maximum is going to be adjusted based on that. So using the MidMax restocking, it's not looking at, what did you sell today? Let's multiply that by 90 days. It's looking at, what is today and what's 90 days ahead of that. So that's how our tool is personally working. So you can use either MidMax or your buffer stock, because it's not looking at, number of days times today's velocity. It's looking at 90 days worth of, that timeline, right? We look at that timeline and we see, okay, there's 1,000 units here. So we need to make sure there's 1,000 units in stock to be able to sell that extra 1,000 units. I hope that answers your question. Any update on the development timeline to include sales velocity from Shopify? Yes, we're working on Shopify right now. So Shopify, our plans for integrations is, within the next 2 months we're working on generally to start with 5 integrations. We're going to be including, as a separate thing, we're working on including the Australia and Japan, or the Far East marketplace. So that should be coming out in the next, few weeks or so. And then in the next, say, 2 months, we're focused on Shopify, Walmart, eBay, Deliver, and ShipStation, right? Because ShipStation integrates with a lot of different vendors. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And then Jason also asks, follow up on using factory as a warehouse. What type of payment terms do you have with your factory? So I have 30 days initial payment, and then 70% net 30. So from the point that they send it, they ship it to, when it gets to the port, it's usually about 30 days. And before they release it from the port, I'll make my payment. So that's me personally. Other people have gotten, different payment terms, but I, essentially will only have to pay for what, they ship to the port. So if I order, say, 2 months worth of inventory, I have them keep, 1 month. I have to pay all 30% upfront for them to produce that inventory. And then they send half of it. And then I have to pay the other 70% for that half that I received. And then later on, I'll pay the final 70% of the other half that I received. So I'm paying the full 30% upfront to produce it. And then I'm only paying their final payment on the inventory received. So hopefully that answers that question. All right, so it looks like that's all the questions we have. I'm going to just touch on another couple of things that I want to make sure that you keep in mind for your inventory process. All right, and so one of the things that, we did touch on it a little bit, but I want to make sure that that we're really focused on. Sorry about that. I really want to make sure that we're focused on this. It's inventory minded marketing, right? We call it sync to scale also. And that's basically that you want your marketing and your inventory and your cash flow all to work together, right? We focus a lot on marketing, but we don't tend to move that over into inventory. And I actually have, have some friends who are business owners. They're, husband and wife team, and the husband does the marketing, the wife does the inventory, and they have laughed at this because while they go to sleep in the same bed, the marketing side of things, the husband will stock out, the inventory, and so they'll have this thing where it's like they live in the same house, they sleep in the same bed, but they don't tend to talk together. So that's kind of like a microcosm of what all of our businesses are sometimes doing is the marketing team is not talking to the inventory team. And I've talked to a lot of people, and that's, tends to be a theme, and we're working as an industry to kind of grow out of that. So I like to talk about inventory minded marketing, right? Always thinking about, what's happening with inventory. Can I actually afford this? Right. So I like to say a good marketing plan can turn bad really fast when it becomes so successful that it stalks you out. So there's a couple of things that you need to consider. You've got a PPC ad campaign, right? And I did show you briefly, you can program, say you want to increase your sales by 15% with your PPC ad campaign. You can actually go into the system and do that, right? There are actually ways to tag specific products. So you can go in and then select certain products and tag them with a particular filter and say, I want to increase the sales on all of these products by, let's say, 15%. And you can come in and you select the tag, and it's say the marketing tag, and we say everything with marketing is going to be increased by 15%. And then you can come up and say, okay, this product's going to stock out. We need to wait until that comes back in stock in 3 days, and then we can do the sales. What products are going to stock out? What products am I going to have trouble with that maybe I shouldn't do that marketing? Right. So you should be always thinking with this. And we have various different reports in here that can help you with that. Right. You can see, let's see, the stock outs. Right. All of these SKUs are the SKUs that are going to stock out. And I need to tell my team to stop, to slow down the sales. I want to make more money. Like maybe we have to raise the price a little bit. Maybe we have to slow down, on some of the ads, and keep that inventory in stock so that we don't have to, suffer the consequences of a stock out. Okay, so so think about your PPC. Think about discount coupon email campaigns. I know someone who sent out an email campaign one month for Mother's Day and then was stocking out the next month, right? So there's all those discount sales that were made. Those could have been full price sales, and that person could have stayed in stock if they had just planned properly. So before you do any of your marketing campaigns, plug them into your system and see if you can actually afford that, right? And if you can't afford that, well, when's the next time you have to place an order? That's what we've built SoStock to do, is to be able to make those on-the-fly calculations, to make those marketing decisions based on, how your inventory is going to respond. And then listing optimization. What if your sales double for you make a listing changes and you double your conversion rate, right? How is your product going to respond? Maybe you have to wait until after your shipment comes in to apply those changes. So vet your inventory before you put your marketing strategies in place. All right, we do have another question here. Please suggest new launch product. Oh, I'm not sure what that question is. Please suggest new launch product. I think it's how would you handle a newly launched product inside of SoStock, perhaps? So inside of SoStock, what you would essentially be doing is you'd be coming into here, and you can go into, say, creating manual velocity, right? So let's say, we want 10 units, and then we're going to come in and say, okay, let's build on top of that. So we're going to do 10 units, and then the next month, you can actually come in here and say, okay, in the next month in May, I want to be doing not 10 units. I want to be doing, say 20% better. And so you can actually build in, what you plan to do on each month. This way, say month 3, we want to be doing 30%. And so you can actually build in a structure of increasing sales. So I would say you would be using a manual number, right? Because you have no data at that point, right? When you're launching a new product, you need to plug in a manual velocity. And then you need to plug in the additional sales increase. So you can use some of these, the future seasonal or the future seasonal spikes as a percentage increase, or you can use, lightning deals, as a total number of units increase for a certain period of time. That would be my best recommendation for that. All right, we're getting toward the end of our time and we'll have to jump off. The one thing I did want to cover is there was a question about bundling. So bundling, I can send some videos for bundling. I think it was Yolanda who asked that. And so I can send a video and I can give you more data on that. And you can book for our demo call. Our demo call goes a lot more in depth on the system itself. But what you are able to do is you're able to come in and build a product bundle. So you would click bundle product and then you would add, the number of units in each bundle. And let's say we had, one of these products and two of these. Make sure the lead times are correct. And then it's going to calculate what you need to cover that bundle. Again, we have videos for this. You can go to help.sostock.com, select, type bundle in the search, and there are a ton of videos on how we handle bundling products, which I think you'll find very helpful. Last couple of questions are, let's see, we've got Kim. So Kim is asking, are you planning to add multi-channel fulfillment in the future? I have to keep an additional inventory app to handle this. So we definitely have plans for that. Currently, we have a system where if you're doing, say, FBM, we have a system where you can come into customer orders and you can remove FBM from your inventory. But if we're talking about multi-channel like Shopify and Walmart and things like that, we are currently adding those. So in the next couple of months, you'll start seeing some of those come up. We're doing, Shopify, like I said, Shopify, Walmart, eBay. If you have other channels, we'll probably build a custom channel where you can, then feed in the sales from that. And then eventually, when we hear certain channels need to be offered more, say a lot of people are using, say jet.com, then we go, okay, let's integrate with jet.com or whatever it is, just based on, the feedback that we get from you guys. We definitely are, being coordinating with the sellers, like you guys, to ensure that we are able to give you what you need. Jason says, I have Amazon Global Logistics. Oh, have you used Amazon Global Logistics? I personally haven't used Amazon Global Logistics. If so, what is the lead time that you use in the system for forecasting? Like I said, I really can't answer that because I haven't used it. We have a community though. Once you sign up, you'll get into our custom or our private Facebook group, and a lot of people will ask those questions in there, and other people will give their feedback inside of there. So it becomes a good environment to learn data about logistics and things like that. How does SoStock sync with FBA and 3PL? So we have an API to Amazon for syncing with FBA. 3PL, everything that all the data that you input. So you say, okay, I'm shipping something and it's coming into my third-party warehouse, and then I'm shipping it out to Amazon. We can keep track of all of that just based on what you're putting into the SoStock system, right? So you're creating a purchase order, and the purchase order says it's going to land in your warehouse. And then you're creating an FBA shipment, and it's saying it's pulling it from your warehouse. All of that is how we keep track of your 3PL inventory. If you're sending inventory to multiple channels, though, you will have to do a different update until we start integrating with those other channels. But ShipStation pretty soon will be coming out, and many systems do integrate with ShipStation, many 3PLs. And that's one of the reasons that we're integrating with ShipStation, and that's why that's one of our target plans to do that integration sooner rather than later. All right. So I'm gonna quickly do a screen share to wrap this all up. Thank you guys so much for your questions and for jumping in here. I wanted to, let's sharing. I wanted to really quickly just kind of go over, what our inventory management solution offers. And this is essentially, even if you don't sign up for SoStock, this is just things that you need to think with when you're putting your system together, right? You need to make sure that you're removing sales spikes, you're removing stock outs, you're factoring in lightning deals, right? You're projecting your seasonality. There's a lot of tools that don't look at seasonality, which makes things difficult. You also need to, have a system to track your orders, track your transfers, which we do. We have a Kanban view where we're tracking all of these things. And then you need to be able to get reorder alerts, right? So you need to know, okay, when, in all the busyness and all the craziness that's going on, when do I actually have to place, these orders, right? And then, so SoStock.com, that's our software. It is currently on lifetime pricing. What that basically means is that you get locked in at $79 a month for life. We will be raising it in the next few months permanently, and it will be on a tiered structure, which means that when it's on a tiered structure, we're looking at how many orders, and the pricing is going to go up based on the number of orders. So it could be several hundred for your particular business. So if you're interested in SoStock, I would lock in that price right now before we do raise it, because we have raised it before. So this is the lowest price that you're going to get, and then for the next few months it'll be available, but moving forward it's going to go away. And I can't say exactly when that is going to happen, but once we finalize some of these final feature updates, we will be doing that update and that change in our pricing. I wanted to drop a couple quick links in the chat. I wanted to drop the link for the demo, right? If you do have some additional questions, you can jump on a demo. So I know there was a question about bundling. You can jump on the demo and we can kind of go into that on that demo call. And then if you're interested in signing up for SoStock right now, jump on in there. I can actually throw in a couple of phrases. You will be getting some help from us. You will be getting a one-on-one call to consult on how to apply SoStock, what systems to have in place, how should you be structuring your system to make sure that your particular business is working the way that you want and need it to work. So that will be a personal one-on-one. Any migration that you need to get help putting your stuff into your data into the system, we can help with that as well. Click that button, the second button right there, to go ahead and get started with SoStock. It's like I said, this is our lifetime pricing, so it's a good time to get started. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out to us at stock@sostocks.com. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have for you. I hope that you guys got some value. I hope that this helps to get your gears flowing towards being able to be in stock for all of 2021, and that you guys just really go out and crush it. All right, thanks so much, and we will talk to you later, and I will go ahead and get this video recording out to you in the next day or two. All right, thanks so much for coming, guys.